Good afternoon, Chloe de Los Santos. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I am extremely grateful because the stationary component of your spoken signature is forming an unflinching reflection in every recording facility. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I am also doing very good and similar to unseen scaffolding. Your words rise into 1,402 syllables, a structure that, when divided, leads us to a hidden date marked as 1402 Wasted Dreams, one of the best songs of this year.
Thank you.
I would love Chloe de Los Santos to explore and discuss about that single that was released exactly 168 days ago. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, of course. Basically, I wrote this song with my brother in his bedroom one afternoon because I was really just angry and confused because the song is basically about this boy who I dated, I think 2 years ago now. And I dated him for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, I was he completely changed. And so I was didn't want to be with him anymore. And so I got into my room with my brother and we started writing this song about, how not very good the experience was with him and how he was basically just always bringing down my energy. And that's basically what the song is about. But writing with my brother was definitely it's very easy to write with my brother. So yeah, it was fun. It was definitely really fun.
Absolutely, Chloe de Los Santos. It was a teamwork with Oliver de Los Santos, your co-writer, who also excels as a musician playing guitar, bass, drums, and keys under the stage name of Pickle Riffs.
Yes, he's incredible. He's incredible.
Pickle Riffs is incredible, and he has a very bright future because we saw him recently playing a song cover by Metallica called Enter Sandman at the Trifid Brisbane live music venue on Stratton Street. Can you tell us a little bit more about this specific event?
Yeah, of course. So basically our school, I go to a music college and we have a thing in the middle of the year called the Trifid, obviously, and all the students have to audition. If you want to, you audition, and there's a list of songs that you choose from, and you can pick a couple of songs to audition, but my brother auditioned with 7 different songs because he was in all the different bands, which is absolutely insane. And I auditioned with 2 songs, I think. I auditioned with one of my best friends, Eva, and she did Teenage Dirtbag, and I did backing vocals for her. And I also auditioned with Backstreet Boys, so I did it with 4 of my friends, and it was pretty crazy. We did it kind of ironically, but it was so good that, when we finally got it, we were oh my gosh, this is so fun. We had full choreo, we had 4-part harmony, it was just awesome, and with the band behind us, it sounded really great. But yeah, so Ollie auditioned with Enter Sandman for his song, and he sung for that. And for the rest of his songs, he did guitar. And yeah, it was a really, really great night, and it was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. And furthermore, Chloé de Los Santos, the lyrics of 1402 Wasted Dreams are reflecting, as you just mentioned, around a post-love awareness state of mind where clarity prevails over all else, with, for example, the lyrics, pushing my patience, but I am not waiting. I am not going to chase you anymore. Can you tell us a little bit more about the process writing those lines with your brother?
Yeah, I think the lyrics in general, it came from a place of frustration. And I was like, Ollie, just like play some guitar and I will sing over it. And I was kind of just talking. One of my processes, I get down, like I just write down everything that I think about, and then I kind of just like take things from here and there and put it together in like a paragraph, I guess. But yeah, it was definitely out of a lot of frustration because it was such a weird and interesting experience. But yeah, definitely frustrating and, you know, angry. I think I was just so angry and I was like, I'm not waiting for you anymore, you know, like you're pushing my patience basically. So yeah, it was just like, I'm basically saying what was going on inside my head.
It was what came inside your head, Chloé de Los Santos, and you created your own fingerprint. How would you describe the Chloé Ray artistic fingerprint between pop, rock, and your passion for Yo Gabba Gabba?
I used to watch, obviously, ABC Kids when I was younger, because I grew up in Australia, but yeah, my brother really loved Yo Gabba Gabba, and that was a big kind of staple in our household, along with Hannah Montana and Dora the Explorer when I was growing up. High Five, actually, I was really obsessed with High Five, but I really just wanted to be a musician when I was younger, and Yo Gabba Gabba, I don't know where that blends in with my music, but yeah, I started off like really pop, and then I've kind of gotten more into like pop rock. I listen to everything, so I think everything kind of, influences what I write and how I, put all my music together. But yeah, I think I've finally kind of found where I'm kind of at with my music. It takes a while, but I think I've sort of found the genre. It's kind of more like pop rocky. I haven't really put anything out that's like that yet, so hopefully you'll see some soon. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards more like Florence Road. They're incredible. They're like my favorite band at the moment. I love all of their songs. They're on in the house every day. I'm at school. I'm like, guys, listen to this band. So yeah, they're kind of like who I'm most influenced by at the moment, and kind of going towards that. And also Alessi Rose, I love her, and I'm very influenced by her and her music. And yeah, kind of, so there's so many people that I pull from, but yeah, I think mainly like Florence Road and Yo Gabba Gabba.
Absolutely, Chloé de Los Santos, your style is progressively maturing with the influence of Yo Gabba Gabba and the character named DJ Lance Rock. And as a matter of fact, what you are trying to do today is to share a concept of time and space, which are two words that are part of the title of a single that you released actually today and last night. Can you tell us a little bit more about that third single?
Yeah, so I wrote that. There was a couple of songs. I had a really bad writing block. And so I wasn't writing anything for a long time. I was kind of just practicing guitar. And then one day at school, I was like, I need to write. And so I had an hour lunch break, and I think I wrote Time and Space in like 15 minutes, and it was kind of just like being, I don't know, it kind of came from having a writer's block and being like, I don't know what to write about, and feeling like, you know, you're going into the adult stages in your life. I was 17, I was turning 18, and just being like, you know, what is going on? Like, you never really know what's going on at that age, and I think having like a quarter-life crisis, or just like a crisis in general, being like, what's actually going on in my life? So that's where it kind of came from. And also at the time, being so like overflooded with schoolwork, and keeping up with all the other things, it was just like, I have to remind myself, you know, to call my friends and like keep in contact. Like, I'm very a person who likes to keep in contact with people who don't live near me or people who do live near me. I like to keep in contact and, you know, stay in touch. So even then it was hard. You know, that's not really something that's like hard for me to do, but because, you know, I was new, I've been homeschooled basically most of my life. So being at school for the first time in like years, it was like a very big transition for me. And so trying to, you know, navigate around that and kind of find how to deal with all the other things as well as keeping on top of schoolwork and everything. So yeah, I guess kind of having to remind myself to call my friends, which is not something that I'm, you know, normally do all the time. But yeah, just kind of having to wrap around, you know, growing into being an adult and, you know, learning how to be back at school and all these new experiences. So yeah.
If I understood correctly, Chloé de Los Santos, you were having a quarter-life crisis. And in that situation, the two therapists could be Josh Beatty as your producer and Ben Fagans as the mastering producer. And I believe that together, those two pairs of ears used time and space to turn what were once the wasted dreams into the accomplished reality.
Yes, definitely. Because I wrote the song during lunchtime. My friend Beth was sitting with me and she did harmonies over it, and I was like, we need to record this. So I got her in the studio with me and I was like, can you do backup vocals for me? She was like, yes, of course. And she's a beautiful singer and a beautiful person, and she's one of my best friends. But yeah, it was such like a full circle moment because, you know, that song came about in like 15 minutes and I went to Josh and I said, hey, look, can we record this song? I sent him a video of us singing at lunchtime and he was like, hell yeah. And so yeah, we got in the studio together and he is incredible. I have worked with a couple of producers before and they've all been like amazing, but Josh Beatty is insane. He is incredible. And he like, I don't understand how his mind works. I give him a guitar and I give him, you know, backing vocals and like my voice and kind of like my vision of where I want it to go and kind of the influences that I want the song to sound like. And he takes it and like, he just creates it so perfectly. He's a wizard. I don't know how he does it. He's incredible. And without Ben Fagans as well mastering my song, I can't do it without both of them.
Absolutely, Chloé de Los Santos. Josh Beatty is a lizard working at 4,000 studios in the midst of Fortitude Valley, accessible to the TransLink bus line number 370.
Yes, that is the one.
This is the bus line leading to the recording studio, and I feel, Chloé de Los Santos, that both Pickle Riffs and yourself are now ready to make a sibling tour starting next year at the largest festival in Australia called Splendor in the Grass.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. I would love to tour with my brother. My brother and I, you know, siblings don't get along sometimes, but I think I got it pretty good with my brother. I call him my best friend. We get along most of the time, but yeah, he's one of my best friends and it's so fun playing music with him, and I watch him and I'm just like whoa, like I just can't believe that, you know, at his age he can do like such incredible things. And he, every time I watch him perform, I'm like, yes, I definitely see him playing like very big stages when he's older, and like he's so motivated and so driven and so passionate about music, and it's very, you know, inspiring. And that's about all the compliments I'll give him for the rest of the year. But yeah, I mean, I would love to tour with him one day. And if he's not doing his own tour, he's already part of my band for shows that I do. But yeah, he's crazy. He picks everything up straight away. It's so easy. He can play whatever you want. It's so good.
It is important to not give too much compliment to pickle riffs, and a striking component of your artistic work is, for example, the poster cover of 1402 Wasted Dreams, captured by Carrie McLeod, with a cake that says "Be mine," and the word "mine" could also means the excavation of the earth, where you dig and find the hidden treasures of Lily Castillo's happiness.
Yes.
I would love Chloé de Los Santos to discuss about La Brea, which is a television series in which you portrayed that character named Lily Castillo. Can you tell us a little bit more about that adventure that happens in different times of history?
Yes, definitely. This was my first show that, well, I'm pretty sure it was my first show that was in a different time period to current day. And so learning about my character and kind of learning about that time period and how people were back then. Well, I mean, we didn't really, it was current day, but when we were back in 10,000 BC, it was very, you know, completely different, and we weren't supposed to know how to live in 10,000 BC. You know, everything's kind of new. Like, there's, you know, saber-toothed tigers, there's like werewolves, you know, like all these things are just like coming and you just have no idea. But it was so interesting to, you know, be kind of in an upside down world. And yeah, it was, you know, Lily is such a special character to me, and she always will be. I love gritty shows, and La Brea was very gritty. But yeah, I loved playing her, and her storyline is crazy. I mean, you know, the audience is like, what's happening? Like kind of coming up with things like what's happening with her character and how does she correlate to, you know, her sister or like the dad. And it's just like, guys, I have no idea either. I'm trying to figure it out as well. Like, we're kind of just figuring it out as we go along, and the storyline is crazy. And, you know, her character is just, there's so many little backstories, and when you kind of piece everything together, it's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it was such a good show to work on. It was so fun, and you know, I met some amazing people on that show, and yeah.
Absolutely, Chloé de Los Santos. You had a lot of fun working on La Brea, and one very striking component of your character named Lily Castillo is her use of silence, especially in season 1, episode 2. And after the silence, those couple words, "I know you're right, I didn't tell them anything."
Yes, I forgot that was my first line of the show, but that was, I will tell you, that was a very cold day. I do remember filming that day. It was, I think, almost like 0 degrees filming that. And I remember, because it was so cold on set all the time, we were in the mountains of Melbourne. It was like almost negative degrees in the morning. Oh, actually, I think it was negative degrees in the morning. And we would be up at 4 a.m. We'd be in the car. We'd be going to set, hair and makeup. It would be freezing. And I had 2 layers of, I had a thermal pair of tights, and then jeans, and then 3 pairs of socks. I had a thermal long sleeve, a long sleeve on top of that, and a short sleeve, and a cardigan. And then I would have heat packs in my shoes, both my shoes, and a stick-on on my back, which was like heatable. I don't even know how it works, but I'm very thankful for it. And I also had like hand warmers in my cardigan pocket so that when I had... So in the show, when you see my hands in my pockets, that's because I'm warming my hands up in my pockets because it was freezing. But yeah, it was freezing that day, and that was such an emotional scene. And yeah, that was one of my favorites to film, I think, because it's such a, a big moment for Lily to, she's silent throughout the start of the show, but then it's like, oh my gosh, she does talk. And so yeah, that was a very big moment for Lily.
It was an important moment for Lily, Chloe de Los Santos, and I feel that that particular television series gave you the urge of wanting to explore the horror and psychological thriller genre with that specific word, which is gritty.
Yes, definitely. I have played mostly, I've played a really sassy character once and kind of also another really quiet character, but I really love the gritty shows. My favorite movie of all time is True Grit, directed by the Coen brothers. And when I watched Haley Steinfeld in that, I was like, wow, I really want to do a show like that. And then kind of from there, I started watching more, not similar movies, but more grittier movies. And I saw Black Widow, and that was incredible. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be like Florence Pugh. I want to be like Scarlett Johansson. But yeah, I just love the idea of being in a horror or like a psychological thriller because I haven't seen this movie, but I would love to be in a movie like it. Don't Worry Darling with Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh is like one of my, my idols. I look up to her and aspire to be like her as an actor. And Scarlett Johansson as well. Like she's also one of like the people that I really look up to. But yeah, like Florence does a lot of gritty roles and Scarlett as well. And I would love to do something like that one day and kind of, I don't know, I like the idea of scaring people on screen. That'd be so fun because I get told a lot that I'm, a very like happy person. I'm always like, excited and bubbly, and I think it would be such a plot twist for me to play a character that will scare people on screen or like mess with people's minds on screen. That I think that would be so much fun. In the most nicest way possible, I think that would be so much fun.
Absolutely, Chloe de Los Santos. You want to scare people and mess their brains. And no matter the genre, I hope that we will always find Gladys the Pizza, which is the nickname given by Woody Woodpecker to his lunch before it falls into the ground and feeds the insects.
Yes, honestly, I love Woody. That show was such a complete, when I was filming that show, that was such a different style. I mean, it was a different style of show, but complete different way of, I completely switched up. We were in the mountains of Melbourne. It was freezing, and then we go to a summer camp, and it's warm, and it's like completely different vibes. So filming that show was so much fun. Like I had so much fun on that show. And I would do it over again 1,000 times again.
You would do it 1,000 times again, Chloe de Los Santos, in probably another sequel of that feature film. And the scenes are happening in a place called the Camp Woohoo and the Steam Camp. Can you tell us a little bit more about that location and about the storyline of that Netflix feature film called Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp?
Yeah, so I mean, we filmed in multiple different locations. In the show, obviously you see us at one summer camp and then the Hoorah summer camp, but we actually filmed at like 5 different summer camps all across Melbourne, and they were all beautiful, and it really honestly felt like we were on summer camp, which I think was just made it so much better. And our director, John Rosenbaum, he is incredible. He has worked with some incredible people, and he is like a father to us all. He is so lovely. He's so kind. He really cares about us kids and really made sure that we had our own input in the show, which is, I think, really, really great and helpful. And being able to talk to him and him talk to us like we were adults and not children was something that I hadn't really experienced before. And I kind of felt like, this is kind of our show, and we have like, input, and we can kind of do things and kind of experiment a lot, which I think was really awesome. And yeah, he was amazing to work with. If I could, I would have him as my director on every single show. He was incredible. And yeah, I could talk him up for ages. He is awesome, and all of us kids love him, and we talk about him all the time. But yeah, it was a very fun movie to work on. I mean, what's not fun about being on an American summer camp and like being able to film that? And I've never been on an American summer camp. I did spend a lot of time in LA growing up, but I've never been on a summer camp. And so that was, I feel like, kind of my closure as coming to a summer camp in America, because I'm 18 now. I can't go to summer camps unless I'm a counselor, which, maybe one day I will do that. But yeah, I think it was just so fun. And, being with like a group of kids, like my age, and there was like, I think there was 3 or 4 boys and 3 or 4 girls, or 5 girls. There was a lot of us, and we all just like basically partying every day on set. I mean, it's like a big camp. We're having fun as well as, we have to still be professional, but it was just a whole lot of fun.
You would like director Rosenbaum to direct every of your upcoming projects, including the potential video clips of your music. And working on that set was also a challenge towards the special effects, because you were interacting and having some replicas with Woody Woodpecker, which is a fictional character. Can you tell us a little bit more about that creative process and, for example, that final hug at the minute 91?
Yeah, well, so a lot of people ask me, like, how was it like doing it with an animated character? And honestly, it was kind of weird at the start. I was like, we had a thing called a ball and chain, and it's like basically a stick with a ball on top, and there's like a color grade in front of it, and so we kind of practiced with that eyeline. But then also we had like a 3D model. We had 3 3D models: a sitting down version, a standing up version, and one with his arms out, I think. And we practiced. We had our director of photography. He would hold Woody, and he would bounce him around and over here, over there, and we would have to follow his eyeline and kind of remember where he was. And then when we actually started filming the scenes with Woody, and then they would remove the 3D model and they would do one with the ball and chains, and then we would just have to remember where the eyeline was. And yeah, it was very interesting. I mean, to start off with, talking to thin air was kind of crazy, but honestly, like towards the end, I think all of us kind of thought that he was there, and it was kind of weird, but it was just like, like you were actually talking to someone and, interacting with someone, which is kind of crazy because there's nothing there. But yeah, like the hug at the end was so special. I was hugging a pool noodle with a face on it. So that was very interesting. I was like, I wonder how they're going to do this part. And then they handed me a purple pool noodle and Nico pen with, a little smiley face on it. I was like, okay. And so I was hugging a pool noodle, and so that's how it looks like I'm hugging Woody. And, and to see that kind of come on screen and, it's me hugging Woody, it was very, very special moment for me. And, to see it all come together, because obviously we don't see any of the like post-production, pre-production of Woody until like it comes out. So I think just watching it all come together on screen was incredible, and it was very very special to me.
In definitive, Chloe de Los Santos, your brilliance on screen made Woody Woodpecker real. And I feel that playing in that comedy and feature film was like having a conversation with your childhood the same way you were watching Muno, Broby, Fufa, 2D and Plex in Yoga Bagaba.
Yes.
It was a full circle moment, and I would love Chloé de Los Santos to discuss about your early journey that started in theater, especially with a character named Cosette. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, like, I think ever since I could talk, I have been singing, and I think every video that is on my parents' hard drive is of me dancing around the lounge room, you know, singing along and, you know, kind of pretending that I was on a stage performing at, like, such an early age and singing along to High Five and Hannah Montana, like, I don't know, that's kind of a thing that I've always wanted to do. And I used to stand on the table and have a plastic guitar that has like buttons on it that would like play chords, and I would like rock out to that on a table at like 3 years old. And I don't know, that's kind of something that I've always wanted to do. And so my mom, after, you know, watching me just jump around the house with so much energy 24/7, she was like, I'm gonna put you in dance. So she put me in dance, and I loved it from the moment I started. And one day I was singing at dance, and my teacher told me, you have a really good voice. You should audition for The King and I, which was a musical that came to QPAC. And I was like, okay. And my mom was like, oh, well, if she wants to, she can. And so I was like, yeah, I want to do it. So we went to the audition, and I got in, and I met one of my best friends, who I'm still best friends with, and Isella Connolly, who's also a musician. But yeah, we both, you know, were on that show, and it was so much fun. I was like having the time of my life, you know, performing like I think 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah, that kind of got me into it. And, you know, after that, it kind of just like settled down a little bit. I continued back on with dance, and then they asked me, it was a 12 and up, I think, trip to Disneyland. It was a Disneyland trip, they called it, but we went to LA, Disneyland, and then we went to New York. And they're like, hey, and I think I was like 7 at the time. They're like, we want Chloe to come with us. And I was like, oh my God, that was like the best day of my life. So I went to the Disney trip, and I performed at Disneyland, and I did, you know, lots of workshops for dance and stuff like that. And then we went to New York, and Les Mis was in theaters, and my mom was like, do you want to go watch this? And I was like, yes, I want to go watch it. And my mom was like, you know, it's going to be really, you know, scary and upsetting, because, you know, that kind of, I didn't really watch most like stuff like that when I was younger. I was kind of too scared. But my mom was like, you know, you're very young. I had no front teeth. I had like pigtails, and I wanted to go watch this like really dark musical. And I was like, no, I really want to go watch it. And my mom was like, okay, we have to promise, if we buy tickets, you have to sit through the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, I can do it. And I went up, you know, to go inside, and the usher was like, she's very young, like she's gonna probably be scared. And I was like, no, I really want to watch it. Within the first 20 minutes, I was bawling my eyes out. I was sitting on my mom's lap, I want to go. It was so sad, and I was, you know, very scared. There was loud noises. It was scary for a 7-year-old at the time. And I left there. I left the show, and I was like, like I actually kind of liked it. My mom was like, girl, you were bawling your eyes out the whole time. But anyways, I went back home, and I was like, I'm glad that I don't have to do that, because that's scary. And then I saw the auditions come up for Les Mis, and I was like, Mom, I want to audition. And she was like, really? And I was like, uh-huh. So we flew down to Sydney. We did the auditions for Les Mis. I think there was hundreds of kids there. And yeah, I got in, and rehearsals started in Melbourne. And then my first shows, I think I did 1 show in Melbourne, then I did Perth, and then Brisbane, then Sydney, and then I went off to international. I did the Philippines, and then I did Singapore. But yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, you definitely had to learn how to grow up a little bit quicker, being on a professional musical theater show where you're only around adults. You have like 2 other kids with you when you're performing. And yeah, I definitely learned how to grow up a lot quicker while I was on that show. And I think kind of that's how I've built myself who I am today. But yeah, I think it was just so much fun. And to be able to perform, and I'm half Australian, half American, Filipino, but to be able to perform in the Philippines was like a dream. And everyone there is so lovely. I have lifelong friends over there now, and people that I look up to and talk about all the time still to this day. Like but I think it was just amazing, and being able to meet the fans after the show, and they're so kind. And someone did like a full portrait drawing of me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like the talent over there is insane, and people are just so lovely and so kind. But yeah, it was so amazing. And I think being on that show really kind of made me realize like this is what I want to do for a living. And I think after that, I did that for 2 years. And I think to this day, I'm the longest running Cosette in the world still, which is absolutely insane. But after that show, I kind of didn't want to sing anymore because I had sung the same song, I think, over 500 shows. So, it comes to a point where you kind of get sick of the song, I think. But I got off that show and I didn't want to sing anymore. And so I went back to dance, and I kind of started wrecking my voice over time, and not using my technique, and completely like ignoring the fact that, I've built up my voice to, this level, and I'm like kind of ruining it and, crashing it down to the ground. So, I didn't want to sing anymore. I sung in my classes with like bad technique, so I wouldn't get picked for solos at concerts. And honestly, I was really awful to my voice. But, after a couple of years, I completely damaged it. I had vocal nodules, and I completely damaged it. And I was, like 2 years ago, I finally went, yeah, I want to be a singer. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a musician. And so I've kind of just been rebuilding my voice since then. But yeah, it's been a very long and hard journey. I didn't think it would be this hard to, get my voice back to how it was when I was, 7 years old, 8 years old. But yeah, it's finally coming back slowly and steadily. But yeah, hopefully one day I can get it to as good as it was when I was 8 years old.
Absolutely, Chloe de Los Santos. And the way you saved your voice is actually very simple, with time and space. And that experience, as you just mentioned, led you to hold the record of the longest running Cosette in the world, which is a character who is the illegitimate daughter of Fantine and Felix. And you were also marked by that show called The King and I, a musical by Rodgers and Hammerstein, based on that Margaret London's novel from 1944. What would be your current goals on the musical scenes, but also in film and television work?
For musical theatre, I would love to do again. I think after Les Mis, like doing that for 2 years, obviously like the same song, for over 500 shows is crazy. But I went to the arena tour for Les Mis a couple months ago with one of the Gavroches on the show, Kieran, and we've grown up together, and he's double the height as he was when we were younger, and double the height of me now. But we went to it was kind of last minute. We went to go. I was like, my mum was like, hey, like the show is on, and I was like, oh well, Kieran should come with, because he was in the area. And so we drove there together, and we went to go watch that, and it was so full circle, and it made me like very teary, like just seeing like, all of it. It's just incredible. And one of our original, the Fontaine in Manila in the Philippines was the Fontaine on the tour for the arena show, which is incredible. And so like watching that is just totally full circle, and seeing like all the little people that we played on the show and being like, wow, they are so tiny, and then being like, hey, that's how tiny we were when we did the show. So it was kind of crazy, but very full circle. And if Langders came around again, like I would totally audition for it and try and do that again, because I honestly loved it, and so many of my core childhood memories are from that show.
In conclusion, I am looking forward to hear the upcoming 100 albums of the entire the Los Santos family tree, including yourself and the notorious pickle riffs. Thank you very much, Chloé de Los Santos.
Thank you.